This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 404 for the week of May 15th, 2016. What is up? Welcome back to Kanzenshuu, the podcast, an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fan site, Kanzenshuu. We cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening a little bit of entertaining. Hello again, it's Mike, Vegito EX, coming in your ears this week. It is just myself for this episode. I'm jumping right into things, though. I have another interview for you from Anime Fan Fest 2016 here in New Jersey. Last week on the show, if you haven't checked that out, go back and listen to it. Talked with Jason Thompson, previously of Viz, now of his own various ventures. We talked about Viz's English translation of the Dragon Ball manga, how that all came about, how that changed over the years. This week here on the show, the second and final interview from the convention. Joining me will be Lance Heiskell. You may remember him from his time at FUNimation over the course of many years, marketing for the anime juggernaut. And what's interesting is not so much juggernaut when Lance came into the company. We talked about how Lance got started with Funimation, what the early marketing days were like. In particular, we talked a lot about Dragon Ball GT. That was some of the earliest stuff he worked on there. We wrapped up with the Rock the Dragon set and kind of touched on everything in between from his time there at Funimation. That is our topic this week here on the episode. There's a bunch of news going on right now. We're going to save it for the following episode because as I'm recording the intro, I'm doing this a little late. It's Monday evening. Bandai Namco has a big announcement tomorrow, and it makes sense to actually talk about something of substance rather than saying basically what I just said and theorizing what will be out of date in about 12 hours time. So just stay tuned for all that big discussion coming at you next time on the episode. It's a big week right now actually in Japan. The digest editions just came out at the end of last week. Myself and lots of other people got their copies in today. We'll be talking about that. In addition to that, the CD single for Forever Dreaming from Czechno Republic just came out in Japan. Two versions of that, the Czechno version and the Super version. Be getting those in for review. We got a lot to talk about, but this week's interview is about 45 minutes, so it's pretty much a whole show in and of itself. So let's get right into it. Enjoy the interview. I'll check you on the flip side. I am back in the sales and catering office at the hotel attached to Anime Fan Fest. I got my second guest of the convention. Introduce yourself.
I am Lance Heiskell. I am Vice President of Sales and Catering here at the lovely Doubletree.
What is your specialty here?
I like to do Monte Cristos.
Yeah.
Whenever I have a client here, I'm like, the catering dish, Monte Cristos. They are delightful.
We're actually here to talk about Japanese cartoons.
Damn it! We could talk about the Count of Monte Cristo.
That's true. There's always a connection there.
There we go. Jetty on.
All right, take me back. So I've heard a couple of your panels here so far, but the majority of our audience is not here. I actually started my website in 1998, so I've been able to see this whole journey of Funimation, like we were just talking about, zero marketing to a true department and true initiative. When did you come in?
I came in November of 2002. I was at an internet ad agency in Dallas. I watched anime. It was a hobby, not like my, some people have like a main hobby.
Yeah.
It was comic book, sci-fi, everything.
Right.
And stuff. And I was getting to the point at the ad agency where I was working for like Chick-fil-A, American Standard, companies, but not really creative. I really wanted to work for a company so I could choose. And I'm like, I really want to do an entertainment company. So I was like, well, what about all this stuff around? Then found out that Funimation was in Fort Worth. I lived in Dallas.
Okay.
It's the Metroplex that is about 30 minutes difference. During that time, I was at Anime Fest 2002. And that was whenever Funimation was at Anime Expo New York.
Okay.
That 1 year before Big Apple Anime Fest.
Yeah.
And that's when they sort of announced had One Piece, but they didn't have One Piece.
Yeah,
that's when they're 4Kids.
Yeah.
But then they also announced Tenchimuyo. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, they have Fruits Basket. Now, are they getting into anime?
Yeah.
And then I was like going, I can market anime. Mm-hmm. And so while at Anime Fest, I got a Fruits Basket clear file, and I put a resume and a cover letter inside the clear file. I put it in a large manila envelope. And then I put it registered certified mail, that big blue thing you have to tear off a mail back. I did all that. So I knew, I was like, okay.
They knew they were getting it.
They got it.
Yeah.
And it looked important that it had been opened.
Right.
And then whenever they look at it, it's like, it had fruits basket on it. And so part of my always thing is like when people say, well, how should I market yourself? It's like, well, if you're in marketing and you've got to market yourself to get the job. Years later, Cindy is the wife of she was VP of marketing at the time, also wife of Gen Fukunaga, the founder. They're both co-founders. She said, just putting that in, it made you want to interview me. I'm like, all right. So part of it is just getting that little thing to get you noticed.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started. And it was part of the thing was like, we're getting into anime because they were just Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
And it's like, we need someone to do outreach and do marketing for us. And I'm like, sign me up.
So what was the marketing atmosphere at the time there at Funimation? Was it basically non-existent?
Well, it was more licensing, where it was Score doing the Dragon Ball Z trading card.
The Hummer Tour.
With the Hummer Tour. So it was more of piggybacking off of the licensees.
Gotcha. So everyone else doing stuff.
Everyone else, because and also at the time with Dragon Ball, your biggest advertisement was Cartoon Network.
Sure. Yeah.
And so with home video, there were some ads, but it just wasn't much.
Right.
Yeah, it was more just the Score Hummer Tour and TV. It was TV everywhere, and then people knew it was 3 episodes on a VHS, 2 volumes, and then just.
Right.
Another volume comes out and people get more bookcases with the VHS. So many VHS.
Yeah. I mean, there was the spine art was also like one of the selling features at the time.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing. I wasn't there when they're doing all the Dragon Ball Z stuff at the time. I knew the people that made it. And a lot of that was slides that they got from Japan.
Right.
Because these days, it's layered art files. Back then, it was slides, like really small slides that you have to look at. And there were 3 people in the creative department that did vectoring.
Right. I remember the cover arts at the time. They weren't quite screenshots. I know that's from the show, but they looked.
Yeah, they're like different. It's like some of it was really nice scans of images, and the ones that weren't scanned that well, that didn't. Whenever they were scanned, it's like, well, we'll need to vector it. And vectoring is just doing a point and tracing everything and just making that line. So whenever you make it bigger, or embiggen it, I love that word.
Embiggen's a great word.
Then it would transfer well. So if you see all the Lupin DVD covers, that was it.
Yeah.
All those were vectored as well. And a lot of the vectoring was done for licensing.
Got it.
Ton of Yu Hakusho was done for licensing and vectoring.
Yeah. So what'd you do with Dragon Ball when you came in? Was it already just like so massive and in progress?
Well, the thing with Dragon Ball was I was hired to do all the anime stuff.
And was it that Dragon Ball wasn't considered anime, or it was, but it was just like such a beast?
It was more of a big mass market, where it was this show that within the home video, it was more about the Infogrounds was coming, which was Atari with the video game. Then it was the Sword trading card games. It really didn't get until we released Dragon Ball GT that more of the marketing effort was made.
I think back to that time, I think of like comic books had ads for GT for those episodes. I remember that starting up.
I actually did those ads.
Did you?
Yeah, because the crazy thing is we're in this convention center, this convention. One of the people that are running this event runs a company, Geek Riot Media, that he was the guy that was the person that I got the ads from DC Comics.
Oh, no kidding.
He was originally he was a DC Comics guy in the ad creative part, ad sales, and at that time was putting together a budget and places to do ads. And in my presentation, Anime Nostalgia Bomb, I was showing people all the different places the non-traditional places people didn't think of.
Right.
We advertise in Archie.
Yeah.
We did DC Comics.
My wife was big into the Marvel universe, and she keeps pulling out all these old issues. You're like, GT ads.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was fun. One San Diego Comic-Con, I got invited to the DC dinner.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it was like Greg Rucka was there, and all these people like going, "This is cool," and then like Dan DiDio, "Hi, I'm Dan DiDio. Hi, nice to meet you."
Yeah.
So if you're a comic book nerd, you know who those people are, and yeah, it was such fun. I remember with GT, it was the decision of the first 13 episodes, the Dragon Ball-ish episodes.
Yeah, the lost episodes we had there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the wording was, whoa, we need to start during the action.
Yeah.
And there was like two sides at work. It's like, well, we need to start at the beginning or start at the action. Part of the reason why it started in action was every country that GT started, it faltered at the beginning.
Right, and Japan included. So
because it was the Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
And so they just make the decision as like, well, if you keep knocking your head, it's like, well, why not just start there?
Yeah, that's
and then we'll just pick it up later.
Totally. That's one of those things in retrospect, at the time we were all like, what are they doing?
And also the Dragon Ball GT rap.
Right. Well, we'll get to that. But just
oh my gosh, that was so fun.
Just the release order, at the time we all had such a problem with it, but this is again with, 10 plus years of retrospect here. You think back like, no one likes the beginning of GT. So why not take advantage of that? Make an event out of it, make a story out of the fact that you're jumping ahead a little bit. To me, it's like, it's slightly brilliant. It still annoys me from the anime collector side of things.
Yeah.
But eventually we went back and got it all, so it kind of made sense. Let's talk about the GT rap a little bit. I'm going to toss out a name, Barry Watson. Was Barry still there at the time during GT?
Oh, Barry Watson. Barry is a clever, good character. But he had ideas that, and some were like, yeah, why not? But then it was you had a lot of people in the room because it was all more of a good committee. I'm like, well, here's the pros, here's the cons, and people are like, yeah, that would work. Let's do that.
So tell me about the GT rap. How did that come about? I remember when that debuted. That was another very angry day for Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Well, part of that time was when all the movies would have the different band soundtracks.
Right. Yep.
And I just think it was just a sign of those times because the song was a little bit more little light. They did their own soundtrack at the time. Yeah, that was more production. It wasn't something.
You handed this and said, "All right, sell it."
Yeah. What we had was I think the promo was doing people submitting their own raps.
Yeah,
I know we had that one promotion.
All right, we got Albert here in the room. What's up, Albert?
I always want to know whose idea was it to come up with the promo for You Think You Know GT?
That we were talking about with the rap when that came out. It was like doubling down on that.
Oh, what was the you think?
It was like bad fan sub footage with an instrumental of the song, and it was like, "You think you know GT? You don't know GT."
Oh,
then the rap kicks in.
Well, it was like it's like because it was Mark Mensa doing all the music because of Dragon Ball Z. Just having a new style. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wasn't involved in it, and it was just it was still the time of the Dragon Ball Z Hot Topic shirts.
Yeah.
Where every AMV was Limp Bizkit or Linkin Park.
Yeah.
So it's like the fandom just kind of on their own equated Dragon Ball Z.
They were already doing that.
They're already doing that. Yeah. So I think that kind of, I didn't have any part in that. So don't.
Of course.
But I think that was, that's the aesthetic.
Yeah.
That was already there.
Might as well use them.
So might as well use that aesthetic. Yeah. A lot of GT at that time was a different brand manager.
Okay.
Because I was more handling of Fruits Basket, Blue Gender, and I went on like 13 conventions. That was the time that we and this was all in 2003.
Right. So still pretty early for you.
And then Kitty Grade, launching Kitty Grade, launching Tenchi at the same time, and then at the same time, prepping for Full Metal Alchemist.
Well, then let's jump back a little bit. So you come in for marketing. When does the idea of, all right, we need brand managers, and when does that start to explode for all these different properties at Funimation?
That was around 2004.
Okay.
When, because I was more when I started, you can make your own title. So I said, well, it's like fan-based marketing because that's what I'm doing. Because they never had an online presence.
Right.
Because like they had a PR person that was new, but then I'm like, well, the people that you really need to talk to is like Anime on DVD, Now Fandom Post. You need to talk on ANN. all these like Toon Zone, all these message boards that people have questions.
Right.
You need a rep.
Yeah.
And part of that was, it's not an idea we had. It was on Fandom Post. They had, David Williams
Ask
from
a rep,
ADV.
yeah.
They had, Sean Kleckner from, because there was already a precedent. You had Jerry Chu from Bondi. You had anime cons. They had reps, that they had panels. And that's what I was showing them. It's like I am going to do this at these cons. That's what you need.
Yeah.
And so the first con was Anime Central 2003, and I videotaped it because people always thought that, DBZ, which is dudes, and Fruits Basket was ladies.
Yep.
They didn't know that ladies like Dragon Ball Z. Everybody liked Dragon Ball Z. Everybody liked Fruits Basket. It's like half and half. Mm-hmm. And so I had a survey so I could show, like, here's the demographics. And then whenever people won something, and it was Fruits Basket, Lupin the Third, Blue Gender, and Dragon Ball GT. No, it was Dragon Ball Z. No, it was GT. And then people was like, I won this. And there was a guy, I have a video of a guy that was just like, I love Dragon Ball Z. It's the best ever. And he won Fruits Basket. Yes, I love Fruits Basket. To show them, like, this is your audience. Because whenever I started, I was really surprised that I was the only one that was an anime fan there. Mm. To them, it was like, we're doing a cartoon. And so it was, but then later on, when all the production was watching anime, they really got into it. So they became like good anime fans. Then a lot of the staff, once they got more anime shows, you had a lot of like the ADV voice actors coming up. Mm-hmm. And then you had people that I would hire and people that I hired into marketing in other departments. It really became just this really good fandom company. Because it's like going, I like anime. This is great.
Let me take it back to Dragon Ball.
Okay.
How did you see things change with the marketing of Dragon Ball over the years? So you're coming in, you guys basically wrapping up the overall first-time production of everything. You start to get into re-releases at that point. Mm-hmm. So how does that change the kind of attack plan?
Well, the re-releases was, we got it, this was before the bricks, the orange bricks, were, we released it with the, going back and dubbing it.
Yeah.
And then we released those in volumes. Mm-hmm. And it was, we had like a Goku figure and a Vegeta figure.
Right. That was the box that never finished.
Yeah, a box that never finished because the sales just, I think that was a time that everybody was like so saturated with owning Dragon Ball Z.
That was a big turning point for sure.
And then one of the co-founders, Daniel Kokenauer, had the idea. It was like, we just need to release this in big chunk releases.
Yeah.
Just big chunks. And that's how the bricks got born.
So it was a conscious decision, like, we got to just kill this release and just move on. We got to try something.
Well, it was more of just, like the 3 to 5 episodes per disc.
Yeah.
We were releasing box sets of anime.
Right.
And part of it is, we need to release this as a box set on DVD. And then it was, because by that time, I was never a full brand manager of Dragon Ball Z.
Sure.
We had this one lady that was the brand manager of it. Then she left, and we had another guy that was doing that. And then
I remember that period because I was talking to like 3 different people.
Yeah, it was like Lacey, and then it was Jason, and then we had Gene. Mm-hmm. And then Gene was the one that during the bricks, that was he was managing the brand then, and that's when we had the biggest Dragon Ball fan contest that ended at Wizard World, Texas, and that kind of like launched the because I just refer to them as the orange bricks.
Yeah, of course,
at
we
work
all do too.
At work we always call them the orange bricks, and those to this day just keep selling.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're $15 at Target, Walmart. They're always going to sell.
Yeah. And then whenever we released the Kai with Blu-ray, that was like 13 episode sets.
Right.
Brick still, like every time that we promoted Kai, the halo effect was the brick sold more.
Really? Yeah.
And then whenever we had the first release of the Dragon Ball Z Blu-rays, where we only had like that one volume,
the level sets,
the level sets, it was all that push towards the Blu-ray. It was, in turn, like, well, it didn't perform. It's like, it performed, but the performance was those bricks sold better.
In comparison to that.
Yeah. And so the reason why, like, the level changed to the Blu-rays was, when you looked at it, it was, instead of like the episode count, it was like episode count or price.
Yeah.
and it was price.
Always
And so
been that
going back to the Blu-rays was, well, let's combine the two.
Yeah.
Let's get the episode count right. Let's get the price right and release it.
Yeah.
And that's what, and so now the Blu-rays are kind of like on par.
Seemed like it evened out to what it should have been all along.
It evened out.
Yeah. Something we, as Dragon Ball fans, kind of always stick by was, those level sets came out. And it's good to hear that they did well enough, but we were always like, level sets came right after the Dragon Boxes, which themselves were announced 2 months after the bricks finished.
It was, yeah.
It was too much.
Well, that was the time that Funimation was owned by Navar.
Right.
And that was
you got a public company
quarterly earnings.
Yep. I remember listening in all the time to that stuff.
Yeah. And so part of that was kind of some of the decisions. It's like, well, we need to have a Dragon Ball here. And you also have just, licensors wanting to look good with the licensors and all the releases. I do wish that the Dragon boxes sold better. A lot of that was the time that they released was a time that I think that was the time that Suncoast were transferring into FYE.
Right.
They were shaky at the time. Best Buy had 3 columns of anime. Then they went into 2. They weren't taking volumes. We transitioned into the season sets. And so it was like if they were released sometime different, like before then or after that, I think they would have stuck.
I want to say it was 07 to 09, so we're also looking at a total economy crash.
07, 09 was that economy. They were released at the wrong time.
I want to jump to a tweet that you made a year ago.
Okay.
Which you probably will remember as soon as I start talking. Made great waves in the Dragon Ball community. And that was, majority of the surveys voted 4x3, then it was ignored internally. Past sales of 16:9 sold better than 4x3.
Yeah.
So for a little context there, that was survey Funimation put out saying, if we're going to approach this again on Blu-ray, talking price point, talking episode count, talking aspect ratio, we were always appreciative that we got the Dragon box set. Went out of print almost immediately. To this day, boxes 2 and 4 are like $500 second-hand market. So like 4x3, and to hear someone kind of like validate people were clamoring for it, totally ignored.
Well, part of it is it wasn't totally ignored. It was we do the survey, we have the fan feedback. It was like because there are 2 camps. It's like, well, here's this and here's this. But then there's
we're
also
a very vocal minority.
Yeah. Well, the thing is the decision on the 69 was more of the bricks sold, and there were 69, and that was the success.
Right.
The Dragon boxes, which was the 4-3, that was when that didn't perform.
Right.
And then with TV 16:9, and then this discussion was like the new generation was like, well, I need 16:9.
Yeah, why isn't my TV being filled up?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it was we had a camp of the 4-3s and we had a camp of the 16:9s. At the end of the day,
who's going to pay your bills?
One of the camps would be deciding, and so it's like internally there are people that wanted it, but at the end of the day. It just all those pros and all those cons and make the decision. It's like
and that's not to say that we don't understand that. But we still have that like there's still some episodes
but then you got to think as it's like Funimation I still really like my time at Funimation, and there's always Dragon Ball Z releases.
There's always something
because the one thing that the last thing that I did that kind of got changed at the end. But I pushed to get out was back in the vault was the original, the original edited ones that people grew up on.
The Rock the Dragon set.
Rock the Dragon sets. The stuff that people never heard. Because like with home videos, well, why would you want to put something out edited? This is the stuff, we've always been unedited and uncut. And like, however, you've got completists, and these are the episodes that you grew up on. So this is kind of like a little side edition,
right?
To
it's
your,
like you're releasing
collection.
The Voltron version of the show, or the Robotech version of the show.
My vision of that was having cheaper versions of the one box set that's like $100 or something. It's like put it out, the 3 sets, do it at like $20 and get it into Walmart. The people that want that. But at the time, Walmart and home video, I'm like, I don't know about that, because they were trying to sell in the Blu-rays.
Sure, yeah.
And so if you had, because with Walmart, it's very fickle.
Yeah,
if you have one title that doesn't do well,
Right.
going back the next time, if something didn't do well, I'm like, well, I don't know about that.
Right.
So it kind of like morphed, and I was going into corporate strategy. So the decisions I had, I couldn't do a lot of day to day.
Sure.
So then it got like changed. I'm like going, it's not like, you're doing it wrong. I'm like, oh man, I wish I did that. However, it did get out.
It did get out there, yeah.
So it was nice. And
I got my copy.
Yes, the Rock the Dragon got out, because I wanted to call it Dragon Ball Z Rock the Dragon Edition, and then I just kind of wanted to play up and all that. We did contact Cartoon Network to see if we could get all those bumpers.
Oh yeah,
But they just couldn't release them.
yeah.
They was like, we can't find them. We couldn't get releases for them. I'm like,
they didn't even keep that
damn
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
I wanted those. Part of it is the people that were there. I'm like, well, I don't know. I'll have to see, get into the archives.
Right.
Because they have archives, we have archives. It's just hard. It's like whenever you license a title that is really old, and then you have to find if the company's still around in Japan, and then which warehouse it is, and picking it up. Right. So it's very similar.
Do you have any real fond memories of Dragon Ball in particular? Like, this is a campaign that really worked, or we didn't expect to get a big result on something?
What I like on the campaigns with I did a lot of Full Metal campaigns, and that was my creative insight was into that. Yeah. I did like the Dragon Ball Z contest. The fun part of all the campaigns I still think that the Hummer tour, it wasn't Funimation related,
right?
But whenever Score had the Dragon Ball Z Hummer, and just because it would just drive around the Walmarts, and then you could go into the store, play the trading card game, and see two voice actors.
Right.
One of the drivers, Adam Sheehan, he left Score to work at Funimation. And so he was doing the conventions.
I didn't know that's where he came from. Interesting.
Yeah. He came from Score. He was one of the Hummer drivers.
Oh, all right.
And so he had relationships with Sonny and Sabbath.
Yep.
And way before. And he would, they're drinking buddies. And so now, then he did the conventions, and so part of that, kind of like that voice actors in the booth signing. That's kind of what we did at the cons.
Yeah.
I think instead of just an ad campaign, it's always fun to have the voice actors interact, and then just if we had one that kind of like overstayed its welcome was the Over 9000, because that was the internet meme, and then it was like people didn't know, like that's not Chris Sabat.
Right, exactly.
It's that's Brian Durham. It's like that's not Chris Sabat. Chris Sabat. Oh, I have to say it.
Yeah, he would say people ask him to do it at conventions.
Yeah.
First, like, wait, what?
Yeah. So that's why I'm really glad that that the original Dragon Ball Z edited version came out. So it was like, here. This is the 9000.
Yeah.
This is the 9000. But then it was kind of it was always used as just a cheap meme.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
It's like 9,000, people get it.
And like that's the joke.
That's the joke. It's like it's like that's already ran its course.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of overran it. So I couldn't think of a great one. I think the one that's like going, can we just retire that meme? Please.
To your credit, I actually didn't feel like it was super overused. I know there were a couple times, like in Kai, the two versions were recorded. The TV version kept 9,000, whereas the DVD version kept 8,000. A couple video game stuff here and there. Like, he used it, but from my perspective, I actually didn't feel like it was super overused.
Okay.
I don't know if you were just more exposed to it than
I think I was more exposed to it.
With the
it became a licensing tee.
Yeah.
Which Ronda Rousey wore. I'm like going, okay. That's like the apex. Right. that was cool.
You won marketing.
yeah. And one thing is, it wasn't one marketing. That was just one of those. It was non-planned at all.
Right.
It wasn't.
There's no way.
It wasn't like WD. It was like, hey, we're gonna do this. Blah blah blah. It was just the most recent WWE with the.
Yeah, they all came out. Yeah,
they all came out. And I'm like going, that is super cool.
Right.
And
I don't think you could arrange something like that. It's got to be organic for it to work to that degree.
And when you think about it, the wrestlers of these days, mid-20s, those are the Toonami kids.
Exactly.
It's like they grew up on it.
Right.
That, because like...
Of course they're going to
Because Dragon Ball Z is wrestling.
Yeah.
And so if you have wrestling
It's a wrestling space opera, for sure.
It's wrestling.
People have made the argument that wrestling is anime. And in some respect, it kind of is, because the way that these wrestlers portray themselves as over-the-top characterizations of who they are in the ring is kind of this manifestation that people tend to pan for, and
overblown shonen stereotypes in wrestling.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and then the baby and the heel. It's just kind of and the fun part is I just know that it's Monday when my Twitter feed of all the anime people that I follow turns into wrestling. It's really fun.
It's funny.
It's very funny. But then it's like with Dragon Ball Z, I always say it's like going, we're gonna fight this villain. The villain's defeated. Join us, okay? And then it just repeats and repeats and
Exactly.
repeats and repeats.
Exactly.
I just love that.
I want to take things actually to your personal website that you're doing now, Anime Nostalgia Bomb. Something we're really big at Kanzenshuu is history. We're constantly translating 80s, 90s Japanese magazines, these interviews. The way we describe it is it's like ever so slightly pompous, but if we don't do it, these things are going to be lost. There are a couple Japanese fans that have transcribed things, but that's still just in Japanese. So you got to do something about this. You're doing a similar thing with anime magazines, anime convention program books, a lot of videos you've been taking. What started that spark of I want to preserve history?
Well, the initial spark was when we were removed from the Fort Worth headquarters to the headquarters in Grapevine.
Gotcha.
We had this one PR room with all these magazines. And a lot of them were very old. And it's like, well, we don't need them. Let's throw them out. I'm like, no, we need to keep one of each.
Right.
And it's like, well, we're not going to have the rooms. Like, I'll just take them home. If you need them. At that time, that was when we were getting all the Pioneer and ADV stuff.
Gotcha.
And there was all these articles of all these old shows. Mm-hmm. It's like, these are reference points. If people need to, if like you have new brand manager that haven't really watched the show, just scan the article, have them read them. And it's like, this is what you need to get into and then watch it.
Right, especially for something like Tenchi, where it already had this history. Yeah,
and also pull quotes, but then also at the time, it's like if you have a pull quote for an anime magazine that is no longer there, the relevance is not there. Yeah. And so about 4 years ago, I had like a string of 6 years of Anime America. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, how far does Anime America go back? Because I remember in college in the mid to late 90s, my sister would have issues. And I had a couple of those older issues. Sure. Like, how far does it go back? So I just, went on eBay and it was 1992, issue 0. I'm like, $13. I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, that's doable.
And then I saw the first year was 10 issues for like 15. Mm-hmm. I'll get that. And it's just thumbing through them. Yeah. I'm like going, it's like $4, $2. Let's get them all. And then I posted just the idea because I had like a Practice Makes Awesome site, just like a personal blog, and I would post articles on those. And then Toshi Yoshida, who was with Viz, with Ranma, and then he was Monday, now he's with the Pokemon Company. Mm-hmm. He goes, do you have any issues of Animag? And I'm like, what is Animag? I was like, oh, well, that was the magazine that a couple of people before Viz were on and started. And I'm like, no. Then I collected those. Mm-hmm. And then my sister had one issue of Anime FX, and that was Helen McCarthy. Right. She goes to all the conventions. She's written the Anime Encyclopedia Bible with Jonathan Clements, and I found those because it was like Mile High Comics, Lone Star Comics, all these sites that have so many comics, people also sold in their magazines. Mm-hmm. There was a site in the UK that I got some magazines. And then there was like Anime FX. I got all of the Anime Expo reference books from like 1990, 91. Cool. And those are all the old stuff. Because like what I collected starting 2003 was more marketing competition. Like this is what the competition is doing, getting ideas. And just saying, we need to do this, and here's some ideas. That's what I got. Mm-hmm. And then with the Anime Central video was just showing work. This is what the anime fan is. But then I just like this huge monstrosities of booths, all this, I was like, wow, we need to do this. And so I would just take pictures of the booths and just all sorts of just stuff. And so, and all the tchotchkes, I remember whenever, it was probably 2004, Pioneer had trading cards. They had like decks and trading cards. I have like 7 of those. There was the time that at Otakon, one of the conventions, that Pioneer had an Ikitosen promo. Mm-hmm. And it was Ikitosen sticker on top of a package of wet wipes. I kid you not. That, and then the ADV Otaku soap was the little characters from Noir in there. So I have that. So it was just all that. And then all my pictures, all the video. And I'm like, I have a lot of this. I need to like put it out there. Yeah. And so I said, well, what do I start with? And so I started with Animerica, the first issue.
Sure.
And then I'm up to like issue, I think I've just done June of 2000. But right now I'm been very sporadic and putting those out. But now I'm on a mission to put that out. And I've always been doing just chronologically. But it's like I need to skip and do more things. Because with this convention, I did a Full Metal Alchemist perspective. And then like getting into the anime industry. And so I was researching and finding a lot of the stuff. Like I have a 2007 Anime Selects, the Comcast VOD channel. Right. They did a video of New York Anime Fest 2007.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they interviewed everybody, huge booth, Tokyo Pop, huge booth, everybody huge booth. And that was the the first annual and last annual American Anime Awards. That was produced by ADV. Mm-hmm. And when I was looking at it, I was like, wow, that is the apex of the bubble.
It sure was, yeah.
It was the apex of the bubble. Yeah. And the greatest thing is it was documented and I have
That's great, yeah.
And I'm like, I have to share this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
so that's what I have. And then just an insider's perspective, you know, I just want to just be just informative. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, when people say, oh, your rivals and companies, I'm like, I know all the Bandai reps, everybody's reps. We're all just like nerds that it's like, oh, you have this job, hey, cool. Mm-hmm. Licensing acquisitions, that's where the rivalry is.
Right.
That's when you bid on shows. Right. Yeah. But part of it is like going to anime cons, which is like summer camp with your friends.
Sure. Within
the industry. And so that's just been the fun part.
Yeah.
And then just seeing where people are now and then.
Right.
Because like I it's fun kind of like seeing, you know, another associated podcast, the One Piece podcast, and seeing those guys as you know, college kids, and now you know, Zach's a lawyer. It's like, that's cool.
Oh, everyone's old.
Everyone's old. Yeah. But then it's like, you know, Carl Olson from Toon Zone, and then Jesse Bettridge from because he had a Canadian news thing, and now he does his own podcast. So it's just fun keeping in touch with everybody.
And everyone's got
throughout the years. It's all fun because what I love podcasts is like right now a podcast you're just recording history right now.
Exactly.
And so I love going through like the old Endcast ones.
Yeah, me too.
Of all that stuff. So that's why I really enjoy podcasts.
Tell me a little bit about you call it the curation process. I think it's a great way to describe it. So when you're sharing things from these magazines, you said you do like the cover, table of contents, letter from the editor. What do you think really stands out about those kinds of pieces in those magazines?
Well, what I try to do is like sometimes the cover isn't the feature story that we want to cover, because there's like one issue where they had like spotlights. So one of them was like a Trigun spotlight, but the cover was Slayers. I already did Slayers at the time. And then looking at the Anna messages of, you know, people writing in questions. And so I'd get a feature, and if there was like a news section, it's like, this is the first time Escaflowne is mentioned. This is the first time this show is mentioned.
Right.
And there was a really fun one of Detective Conan coming to Fox.
Yeah.
I'm like, not so really. And then Steamboy mentioned in 1998. It was like so far, like, wow, this must have been in committee for a long time by the time it came out.
Right.
And then figuring out when was the first ad for a DVD. When was, and then
what was it, Tenchi?
I think it was Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
But then what Tenchi was great was the Pioneer laser discs.
Yeah.
And they're telling like the superiority of laser discs over DVD.
Yeah.
And I love those. And then looking at the ads back in the day where everything was all text heavy. Like you could just read everything because that's all they had. And so they had to explain the show and all that.
Right.
Yeah. But for Animericas, I always would love to do the fan art. If there was a convention report, put that in.
Yeah.
And then the ads, because the ads were like the best. And what I have sections is anime that time forgot, because there's so many of these ads. I'm like, I do not remember this show.
You shared Devil Hunter Yoko. I was like, I remember it.
But then there's so many other shows that CPM and ADV put out. I'm like going, what is this?
Yeah. Sold 10 copies and that was it.
And then there was the first time that Evangelion was on an ad, it shared the spot with 4 other titles.
Yeah.
It wasn't like their big show.
Right.
They didn't think it was their big show.
Didn't know yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it became hear all these ads. So yeah, I love that part of it.
Tell me a little bit about the legal concerns around that, because obviously they exist, but that definitely feels like, especially with ads are meant to be out there, and a lot of these companies also aren't around anymore. So do you just kind of like, well, if no one documents it, it's going to be lost anyway?
Well, part of it is, it's like with An America, I know people there.
Yeah, of course.
And then part of it is, it's kind of like they're not selling the issues.
Right, you can't
they're still around, and I don't take the entire issue. I just like, here is a taste.
Right.
Here is the stuff. And then if anyone says, hey, can you take that home? Sure, I am. I'm just doing a little bit of education.
Yeah.
And then similar like with Tokyo Pop and like with Viz and Mix magazines and all these magazines, I just, when you say all that, legal stuff is, whenever I was at Funimation, I was the one that would be the person that was like going, hey, a lot of these people that are watching fan subs, they don't know that it's wrong.
We have that today with the streaming sites.
You've got to give them. Today at the panel was like, about piracy. And it's like, well, a lot of the stuff with the piracy is an unfulfilled demand. And so people really want this stuff. And at the time, DVD technology would just like, when something at technology was released, it's flatlined at that time, like 1998.
Yeah.
Well, there's codecs and everything that increases all the time. Well, DVD technology can do that. Then you had Blu-ray, where it's HD, DVD, and Blu-ray that kind of mucked that entire generation of formatting off. And then you had streaming at the time. And then you had Kanzenshuu. I sent them the first DMC notice.
Did you really?
Yeah, and they were the ones that had to put the DCM notice.
No one remembers that Crunchyroll was not a legit site at the time.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was like, looking back, they changed the industry. And they changed it for the best. And so now you can have all the simulcasts, because it was like any industry has a disruptor. Look through history. It's like a great, if you're really nerd about this, read Tim Wu's The Master Switch. And it's like every technology, they have like, it's the big companies, a new technology disruptor, they kind of like squash them. And then sometimes the ones that get squashed, the ones that like they overpower, and they'll either get bought by the big company, or they'll become the big company. And Crunchyroll became the big company. Yeah. And so it's just real fascinating. And now there's more anime on than regular TV, but still traditional TV is the gateway, because people are bored, and like they just turn on TV like, oh, that looks cool. But there's more on like Netflix, and people discover through Netflix, they'll discover all this stuff. Yeah. So I just think that within piracy, it's always there. People still make like Kiss Anime is still around.
Why is that? Why can't that just be taken down? It's got to be complicated.
Well, part of that is they embed. Well, I don't deal with it now, but in the past, there was like all those mega uploads and all those files. Right. And so they would obfuscate the naming, and then it was always a cat and mouse game. Yep. So you would find the file that they are embedding, and then support it to mega upload. Yep. And then all of this stuff, because to stream all that stuff on the site would be huge bills. Yeah. And so that was do a streaming site. And so you could always take the files down. You just couldn't take the site down. And so it's always just like, take all the stuff down. You will send notices. But nowadays, a lot of this, before then, all the servers were US based. Now they're international. And getting with international, some play well, some don't. At the end of the day, you're always going to have people that will watch it and won't support it. So do you want to spend all your time on those people? Right. Or spend your time with the people that will support your show? Yeah,
the enthusiastic ones.
So it's part of it is, it's like, there's always going to be a portion of the people that will part your stuff no matter what. Yeah. I mean, it happens with authors, like Neil Gaiman will post with like, hey, I have this, please don't share it outright, or please buy a copy. But you're always going to get people that will just say, well, they'll just do it. But if they buy merchandise, or if they buy something else, they're still supporting the series. Yeah.
The music industry went that way.
It's all about concerts. It's all about concerts now. Right.
Well, I'm going to pull things back around. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So we'll stick with this unfulfilled demand and Dragon Ball again. Now, obviously, you don't work with Funimation anymore. Dragon Ball Super is a show that's been airing in Japan for months now. Sailor Moon can get a simulcast. Why do you think it is that Dragon Ball can't do that?
Because Dragon Ball is
It's Dragon Ball, right?
Well, Dragon Ball is the number one important show.
Yeah.
And I think it's that. I think that it is popular worldwide.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know why it's out here yet. I think it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
It just...
Of course, we agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Our theory has always been we think Toei probably wants a TV deal for something like that. Do you think that holds any water?
I think Dragon Ball Z, if it's like, here's how I would do it.
Okay.
If I was Toei, how I would do it would be, well, first, if you're the American licensor working with Toei, you just tell them the importance of doing a simulcast.
Right.
But really, to get a simulcast or having a network buying the show, you would choose the network buying the show.
Yeah.
Because they would get a lot of the money.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem with the network buying the show, they would want all the rights. So if you get all the rights, then a company that would want the home video, the home video company would want all the internet rights. So part of it is there's so many things that intertwine now that might be kind of just the untwisting of all those rights. So it might be that. It might be Toei saying, no, let's just wait until we have this many episodes in the can. And then, because you don't know if there is a studio dubbing it already. There's like, we need to have 30 of these or 50 of these because we're going to do old school Cartoon Network, an episode a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, you don't know
That's
that
the thing.
plan.
We have no idea what's going on. But to people, it seems like, they don't know, they don't care. And of course, we have no idea what's going on.
From experience in the background, it's probably been in negotiations with lots of people for a long time. There might be a master plan. There's like, well, wait until X convention, and then blow it all out.
And then you'll understand why.
And it's like, that's why they waited so long. It's usually that is like 80% usually the case. Yeah. So it's like, when is it ever coming out? It's like, it's coming out. I just think that right now the opportunity, because like if you're doing like TV, that is the dub. Right. Of course. And right now it's like, well, people are just watching a subtitled version. People that are fan subbing it, and you're getting a ton of people. That's the thing. That's watching it, right? And you don't know the translations. Just like if I was Toei, it's like, well, let's just work with an anime consortium like Daisuke or whoever the licensor is, and just put out an official subtitled.
That's the thing that kills me the most. It's like it's Dragon Ball, so fans are going to watch it regardless.
And worldwide, not just U.S. Exactly. It's just like do it worldwide and just do it with like a subtitle in all the different languages. But the problem is with all the different languages is all the different partners within all the different countries. Yeah. That have been so loyal to the franchise. Right.
So if you get Funimation doing it, but AB doesn't get it, right?
Yeah, away, It's like, well, how come America's doing it, but Europe's not doing it? Yeah. And so it might be just the worldwide just coordination of Dragon Ball Z.
What a monster.
Yeah. It's a monster. Yeah. And so like that's my theory is like it is this monster that you have to tame, and it might take a year. Yeah. To get that monster tamed.
Yeah. We saw it move pretty quickly with the movies. Battle of Gods was like a year and a half or so. Frieza movie, we got our home release a week after the Japanese release. That one moved so fast. So maybe it is just a TV series is on top of all that.
Yeah, I just think that it is a monster series. Yeah. And so it's big.
Well, Lance, thank you so much. We talked about Dragon Ball. We talked about nostalgia. We talked about piracy. I think we can
nerds.
Everything.
Yes.
It's awesome. Big thanks to Lance for taking the time to chat with us there at Anime Fan Fest 2016. The biggest thanks actually needs to go out to Albert for saving my ass multiple times that day in particular. Long story, but it was 2 times in particular. You heard him there. Definitely had to let him get in his question for all the assistance he provided me that day. Thank you, Albert. You are a lifesaver. So let's just go ahead and bring this episode to a close. This has been 404 of our podcast here at Kanzenshuu. We'll see you next time for episode 405. For me, my name is Mike, Fujito EX. We got Jake, we got Julian, we got Heath. That is us, Kanzenshuu, www.kanzenshuu.com, Kanzenshuu. Hit us up on the website, all the social medias. That's where we are. So you can read us, you can listen to us. Thanks to everyone, and we'll see you next time. I always like next time on Dragon Ball Z,
previously on Dragon Ball Z. I want someone to do a supercut of every episode on like YouTube. Like every episode, previously, formerly, and just supercut, and then do a loop.
That was 10-hour posting.
Oh, someone please do that. And if you do that, please post.